This parable that was read today from the Gospel of Matthew is very compelling. It's a description of what charity is and what love is or what love does. If someone's hungry, we feed them. If they're thirsty, we give them drink. If they're a stranger, we take them in. If they're in prison, we visit them or come to them. Or naked and sick. If naked, we clothe them. If we're sick, we visit them. And the writings for the New Church talk about these are classes of the neighbor, how we are to care for our neighbor. And it says this, are signified by these things those who are spiritually such different states of mercy, different states of misery in which one may be who is the neighbor and toward whom charity is to be exercised. It's different types of misery that people experience through which we can help them and serve them. It's a beautiful story. It's also a little bit of a calling out on the carpet, I think. One of those when you get to the pearly gates things where you go, well, I wonder how I did. How did I square up with what these teachings say? And it's speaking to all of us, of course. And it says, the kingdom of heaven, which was prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So this is how things were set up, that we are to serve each other as a way of loving God. That's how we're set up by creation, for us to be part of the kingdom. Now, of course, people look at this parable often and they say, it's the scene of a final judgment, and it will go just like this. There'll be sheep and there'll be goats, which means there's good people and there's bad people. And God will throw the naughty people into hell, and the nice people, the niceties, he will send to heaven, into paradise, and that's how it will go. Now, there's two really important things to point out in this, which is that, A, it's a parable, which means it's a story with a deeper meaning that we not only take literally, but the literal part has a very big lesson for us, of course. And the other thing is to say that God never judges anyone. God doesn't decide whether you or me or anybody else goes to heaven or hell. That is our decision. We're told that we judge ourselves. What we do and what we practice in our life on earth, or what we make a habit of, that is what we will continue to do after death. We're not going to have a sudden change of character, a sudden change of heart after death. The person we have become here is the person we continue to be there. And that's what judging ourselves is. As that passage says, we are like what we were like when we were in the body. So the question remains, of course, did we do these things? In other words, do we help people? And that's actually how we love God, is by helping other people, by loving them. There's two great commandments. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. And the second is to love your neighbor as yourself. And of course, the first 4 commandments on the tablets of the 10 commandments are about how we love God, and the last are about our relationship to our neighbor. And the Lord says, if you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. Now, of course, the Lord could take all of the care of all the people in the world all by himself with all of his own power, right? But then we wouldn't be free, we wouldn't be transformed, we wouldn't have a chance to love or to be loved, to experience what it's like to be human, to give and to experience the joy of loving other people and caring for them. There's not a lot of point in being created by the Lord and given free choice if we don't have the opportunity to live into these things and make the decisions for ourselves about how we're going to act on them. So this parable, as I said, is a story with an inner meaning, and it's a mirror for each of us to observe our own reflection, to see, do we reflect love for God and love for other people in the life that we live? Or it's to inspire us to make our life a reflection of what we read in the story and the meaning, and to manifest it in thought, intention, and action. So this parable is about putting love into action. It's not, well, what would I like to think about doing for other people or meditate on and ponder and imagine and, maybe hope someday that I'll do it. What would love do? What do we do? Because love is what inspires us. If we want to know what we love, pay attention to what we do with our life, with our time. To be clear, love that is true love or good love is not blind. It's very purposeful and it's very clear on what's right and what's good, and then it acts on those things. So love is discerning. It weighs the evidence, it weighs the circumstances, and determines what action is appropriate, and then it acts on that action. The goal, of course, is to be truly helpful, not blindly helpful. Let's say, let's just throw all this stuff at you and hope that it helps, but can we specifically be useful? The goal is also to examine our inner life and see what work we have to do on ourselves, and also to inspire, what kind of hands-on service can I do? How can I respond to this parable, not only in how I think about other people, but what do I do? What will I do? And I think the secret ingredient to all of this is humility. Do we have humility of heart to look at other people and see them as other people who are created by the Lord, who the Lord loves? We're no better than them. You're my brother, you're my sister. Why wouldn't I care for you? Why wouldn't I help you if I could? And again, I'll bring up that word that was shared with the children, Ubuntu, which is defined as I am because of you. Like, I don't live in isolation from you. We all are part of the fabric of society and life. There's a book called A Lion Tracker's Guide to Life, which I shared a bit of that with men at the men's retreat, but the author's name is Boyd Vardy, and he writes, this is actually from a TED Talk he gave, it says, in a more collective society, we realize from the inside that our own well-being is deeply tied to the well-being of others. Danger is shared, pain is shared, joy is shared, achievement is shared, houses are shared, food is shared. Ubuntu asks us to open our hearts and to share. Now, it all sounds good and inspiring, right? But what are the excuses that come up when we're confronted with the possibility of doing any of those things? If I share my food with you, I might not have enough for me. If I give you a drink, well, I don't want to be bothered with that. It's too much trouble. We're a stranger. Well, you're not part of the in-crowd. You're not someone I really know well. It's not part of my inner circle. You're not like me. You're different than I am. They're naked. Well, I might need those clothes later, so I'm going to hold on to that. I'm always confronted with that when I go into my closet and think about it's time to purge the closet, and then it's like, well, I might use that one day, even though I haven't used it in 5 years, but maybe, right? Or if that person's sick, I might not know what the right thing to say is. It might be uncomfortable for me, or I might catch what they have, so we'll stay away. Or if they're in prison, well, you're a criminal. I don't want to be with you. I can't be with you. So what kind of excuses come up for us when we're confronted with these teachings from the Lord? And that passage again from Seekers of Heaven says, if during our lifetime we despised others compared with ourselves, we continue in the next life to despise others compared with ourselves. So it carries on. So what I want to get to in this sermon and ones following is, what would love do? How does love behave? What does love look like? It can feel difficult to explain what love is, but we know something about what love is. The Lord has taught us that. He gave us teachings that help describe it. There's a golden rule that says, do to others as you would have them do unto you. That is a wonderful way to think about, how do I love someone else? I'll treat them the way I would like to be treated. Love your neighbor as yourself. 1 Corinthians is a good place to go as well. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love takes no record of wrongs. It goes on in all sorts of ways talking about the qualities of love. Heavenly doctrines talk about the essence of divine love, so we can look at what the Lord's love is like and take some of that as a lesson to how we can love others. So divine love wants to love others than oneself. We can do that too. Wishes to be one with them. We can do that too. Devoting oneself to their happiness. We can do that also. So those qualities of the Lord's divine love, we can also try to bring into our life. Divine Love and Wisdom 47 says, and this is a well-known passage, it is the essential of love not to love self, but to love others and to be joined with others by love. It is the essential of love, moreover, to be loved by others, for thus conjunction is effected. Love consists in this, that its own should be another's, to feel the joy of another as joy in oneself. That is loving. So we want other people to be happy. Like that Ubuntu, I can't be sad. I can't be happy if I know that you're suffering. So all this feeling of love isn't content to just feel it. It wants to do something. Love wants to act. Love inspires action. Swedenborg talks about that the lungs don't just randomly draw in air, that the heart pumps blood into the lungs, and that causes them to expand and draw in the air. And he says that's an example of how love works too. The heart love inspires us to go out and to draw in information about how we can love other people, how we can do that. It inspires us And it seeks out answers, and that's what the understanding provides. What truth provides is, how am I going to love somebody else? What is it I should do that's appropriate for that? And love has to act. Divine Love and Wisdom 2:16 says, it's according to angelic wisdom, unless will and understanding, that is affection and thought, as well as charity and faith, clothe and invest themselves whenever possible with works and deeds, they're only like something airy, which passes away, or like phantoms in the air which perish. They first become permanent with us and become a part of our life when we practice and do them. These things only become part of us when we practice them and do them. We like to think about it, but that's not quite enough. So food is a symbol for love in the Word, or charity. If we have it, if we're fed, we can feel well, we can feel satisfied. When we're hungry, when we're in want, we can feel grumpy, we can feel unhappy, we can feel like we're in need, right? So there's a physical emptiness that comes, there's a lack of energy when we're hungry. And the same thing with love. If we don't feel loved, or if we don't feel like we're in a loving relationship of some kind, we can be cranky or irritable and feel empty inside as well. Or we don't have enough spiritual energy or nutrition, so to speak, to be open to giving to other people, because we feel ourselves that we are in want. Well, feeding the hungry is to do what's good. Charity wants to do what's good. In the story from the New Testament, Jesus meets a woman at a well. He talks to her, wonderful story about her, but his disciples brought him food, and he said, I have food already. And they're like, well, who brought him food? He doesn't have any food. But he says, my food is to do the will of him who sent me. What fed him was being able to help other people, is what he's saying. It says, in the meantime, his disciples urged him, saying, Rabbi, eat. But he said to them, I have food to eat of which you do not know. Therefore the disciples said to one another, has anyone brought him anything to eat? Jesus said to them, my food is to do the will of him who sent me, and to finish his work. And that be inspiration for us as well, that our food is to do the will of him who sent us, of him who created us, of the Lord who gave us life. And it's not just about natural food, of course, but that's a very good thing to do, is help people who are in need. But it's also helping to satisfy the deepest longing of the human spirit, to be useful in some way, to do good with no thought of reward. Think about it in reference to hunger, how others feel, and how we can help feed them if they're hungry. Think about our children, for example. What do children hunger for? They hunger for love. They hunger for acceptance. They hunger for words of affirmation and encouragement, that we are proud of who they are, that we spend time with them, apart from electronic distractions, right? That we really listen and we really notice them and trust them that they can do things, that they're capable. That's the kind of stuff that they hunger for. That's obviously more than food. This is about their inner life, what feeds them on the inside. What about your partner? If you're in a relationship, what do they hunger for? That we treasure them, that we're thinking of them, that we're faithful to them, that we respect and value and trust them, that they feel honored, that they're precious to us, that we are in this together all the way, that we're devoted to each other and each other's happiness, right? That's what we hunger for in that kind of relationship. So the Lord said in the Holy Supper, well, when he's offering the Last Supper, he said, I am the bread of life. If you come to me, you will never hunger. If we do good from the Lord, guided by what's wise and true, that is what will truly feed others and truly feed us. We are not left hungry. They are not left hungry either. It's the bread of heaven that satisfies. So doing the Lord's will is the bread of life. We are here to help each other to eat and be filled and to find true satisfaction. We know what it's like when we actually help somebody else without thinking about ourselves, with no thought of reward, how wonderful that is. And the Lord says that's what heaven is like. The delight of heaven is doing good for somebody else without thinking what you're going to get out of it. And because we live in this world, we might do something like that, and quickly the hills go, okay, make sure that they notice what you did. They try to spoil it for us. We can be fleeting, that feeling, but we know that feeling. When we have that moment, I didn't do this because I was thinking about what I'm going to get from it. I did it because I knew it was something that someone needed and it was helpful. And also pay attention to your reaction when you're asked to do something for other people. I've had an experience on many occasions, which is good for me, where my kind-hearted wife will see a need or she's asked for some help, and her instant reaction is, of course, immediately. Where I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Do we have the resources? Do we have time to do that? And I love that about her. It's beautiful. It's just, of course. She immediately wants to help. And sometimes it involves food, which of course means that I'm going to be the one that's making it, which means I'm volunteering, or any other number of needs that might show up. But when it happens, it's important to pay attention to the voices that go off. The alarms might be more accurate, excuse of why this couldn't be possible. It's useful to remember when we're confronted or opportunity arises is to say, what would love do? How would love respond? What would the Lord ask of me in this situation? The answer is almost always help out. Make food if that's what's required. Help them move if they need help moving. Have their kids overnight if they need that to happen. Whatever it is, lend a hand. That's what love does. Ask the question, how can I help? The book of James chapter 2 says this, what does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also does faith by itself, if it does not have works, it is dead. So we are called by the Lord. It's hard to escape this parable. It's very clear, about how we should behave. And also, as I said, it's got a deeper level to it, but we're called by the Lord. How do we respond? I love this passage from Secrets of Heaven 67:37. It says, when anyone looks with charity on someone in distress, a feeling of compassion is aroused. And since the feeling is stirred by the Lord, it is an alerting by Him. Indeed, when people who are perceptive have feelings of compassion, they know that they are being alerted by the Lord to offer help. We'll tap. Isaiah 6 says this, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here am I, send me. Amen. So in just a few moments, we'll have an opportunity to receive the Lord's Supper. And of course, the Lord invites us to come forward and receive the bread and wine. The bread is a symbol of the Lord's love and charity for the human race, which He wants us to receive, but also to give. And the wine is a picture of His wisdom or truth, which guides us and shows the way. It is our spiritual food. So you're invited to come if you'd like to do that. There are kneelers in the front. There's chairs in the front row if you are unable or rather not kneel. And receive the Lord's Supper that way. And there is wine in the outer part of the individual cups and in the big cup, and then the center of the individual cup tray is some grape juice if you can't have wine. And there's a little bit of gluten-free bread as well in a smaller plate. So I'll prepare the elements and invite you forward.